Welcome to Storytime with me, Miss Sheila. I hope you're having a wonderful and beautiful day. Today's story is we're going to read Stand Up 10 Mighty Women Who Made a Change. Ooh, let's get into this. When you were born, you couldn't do anything but look cute and cry. But then you learned to sit up, and that's not easy. You had to practice, you stumbled and fell, and you hit your head a lot. Ouch, ouch, and cried. Then you learned how to walk, skip, jump, and run. And for each new thing that you learned, you stumbled and fell. It wasn't easy, but you kept at it, and look at you now. You make it look good. But do you know what you had to learn before you could do any of that? You had to learn how to stand. Standing up is a powerful thing. You stand up so much now that I bet you don't even think about it anymore. But let me ask you this. Why did you stand up? Why did you stand up that very first time? Good question. I bet you stood up to take that first step toward your mom or your dad. We stand up for the things we love. Stand up means more than using your legs and feet. You can stand up to help your family, your friends, and your neighbors. You can stand up for what you believe. If you stand on your feet, you'll be a few feet taller. But if you'll stand on your beliefs, you will be mighty. Listen, and I'll tell you the story of some mighty women who stood up and changed the world. Yes. So there's Mom Bet. Mom Bet was born into slavery in Massachusetts around 1744. She was enslaved her whole life, but after the American Revolution, she went to a public reading of the new Constitution. She heard the words, "All men are born free and equal." So she thought to herself, "Why not me?" Mom Bet took her owner to court, and she asked the judge if the Constitution was just a bunch of pretty words or if it actually meant what it said. And she won! Yes! That's how she became the first enslaved person to be freed in the new country known as America, the land of the free. Mom Bet stood up by demanding her rights. Good for Mom Bet. Phyllis Wheatley. Phyllis Wheatley was born in Africa, but in 1761, at the age of 8, she was stolen from her family, chained on a ship, and sent to America. She found herself in a strange new land with a strange new language she had never heard before, and some of the leaders of America had a strange and terrible idea. They said a black person was not a real person. Three-fifths of a man is how they later put it. They said a black person was property and could be enslaved, and that's what happened to her. Oh, but Phyllis Wheatley had an extraordinary mind. Her owners recognized her talent and gave her an education. At age 12, she learned to read and write in four different languages. And she discovered poetry and how to express what she felt inside. At 14, she wrote her first poem. At 20, she published her first book. Phyllis Wheatley became famous as America's first black woman poet. Her words showed that black people are equal to everyone else. Phyllis Wheatley picked up a pen, and that's how she stood up. Nice. Now it's good. Let's go and read her poems. I'm going to go try and find some. Ida B. Wells. Ida B. Wells was a writer. She wanted America to know that slavery may have ended after the Civil War, but black people were still not free. They lived in terror of the night. That's when racist cowards hid their faces and brought ropes and torches to let black people know what would happen if they stood up or spoke out. But Ida refused to be silent. In the 1890s, she started her own newspaper to tell the world about the terror in the night. Angry mobs destroyed her office and smashed her printing press, but Ida refused to back down. She traveled the country speaking and writing and organizing protests, letting racists know that they could never hide from her pen. Ida B. Wells stood up by speaking out. Bravo. Rosa Parks. In 1955, in Montgomery, Alabama, the best swimming pools, the best water fountains, and the best seats on all the buses were reserved for whites only. No black people allowed. This is called segregation. Eventually, two women got fed up. They sat down in the whites only seats and got arrested because they refused to move. They were sent to jail and inspired others to follow. Lots of people know about Rosa Parks, who was tired after work and just wanted to go home. The story of her arrest sparked the civil rights movement, but not many know about Claudette Colvin. Claudette Colvin. Claudette did the same thing as Rosa Parks, but she did it 9 months earlier and she was 15 years old. Claudette was a student on a bus coming home from a day at school where she studied the history of black women. She read about books like Mum Bat and Ida B. Wells that day, and she decided to sit wherever she pleased and she would not be moved. Rosa Parks and Claudette Colvin stood up by sitting down. Ruby Bridges. In 1960, Ruby Bridges was a little girl getting ready for her first day of school. The school she was attending used to be segregated, but times had changed, and the law said it was okay for white and black kids to be together. Times may have changed, but old hatreds had not. When Ruby walked to school that first day, a crowd showed up, and screamed at her to go home. But Ruby Bridges ignored them all. She was only 6 years old, but Ruby Bridges was a giant that day and every day after, and she dedicated her life to fighting for justice. Ruby stood up by going to school. I'm sorry if I say this name wrong. I think it's how you say it. Prathia Hall. In 1960s, a Philadelphia preacher named Prathia Hall believed the best way to stand up in a, in a democracy was to make every vote count. She wanted to organize to help black people vote, and one Sunday in church she preached about what the world would look like if everyone was equal and what a better place that would be. She started with the words, I have a dream. The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was in that church and thought her words were so powerful that he carried them to the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, and on August 28, 1963, he preached them to the world. Prathia Hall stood up by preaching out. Leila Foley. Leila Foley is not mentioned in history books. Then again, she never wanted to make history. All Leila Foley wanted to do was improve her kids' school. So in 1973, she ran for election on her local school board. She lost, but she didn't give up. She ran again, but this time she wanted to be mayor of the whole town, and she won. Foley became the first black female mayor in American history, and that's how Leila Foley stood up. She got out. She got out the vote. Nice. Bree Newsome. Bree Newsome is a documentary filmmaker from North Carolina. Documentaries are movies about the real world. A filmmaker looks for powerful stories and images that affect our lives. Bree saw one of those images flying over the Capitol building of South Carolina. It was the Confederate flag. the symbol of the South during slavery. The Civil War ended 150 years ago and slavery was outlawed, but that flag was still being displayed as if it were something to be proud of. To Bree, that image meant hatred and pain. So Bree gave the world an image that was even more powerful. On June 27, 2015, she climbed that flagpole, and that was no small feat because it was 30 feet high. She shouted, "This flag comes down today," and she slid down that pole with the Confederate flag crumpled in her hands. She was arrested and the flag went back up. But do you know what happened next? The outpouring of support for Bree was so great that South Carolina was shamed into removing the flag for good. Bree Newsome stood up by climbing high. Wow. Maria Copeny. Maria Copeny is from the town of Flint, Michigan. Every child in her neighborhood learned not to drink the water from the faucet. It was deadly. An accident had poisoned Flint's water, but nobody did anything to clean it. Nobody in the government seemed to care. Myra Copey thought clean water was a basic human right, so she decided to do something about it. In 2016, she wrote a letter to President Barack Obama to ask for help. Her mom told her that the President of the United States gets thousands of letters a day, and Mariah wouldn't be read. But Mariah was tired of being ignored. And do you know what? President Obama replied. He came to see Mariah and gave Flint the money needed to clean up its water supply. Mariah Copeny was 8 years old and she stood up by refusing to be ignored. Wow! Each of these women changed the world for the better, but they weren't alone. There were many more who took a stand in their own lives, in their own way, and there will be many more to come. So now I've got a question for you. When you look at your world, what do you see? What's the good? What's the bad? What do you love? And how would you help? What's the change you wish could happen? Whatever it is, it will start when you take a stand. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. It won't be easy. Standing up means making yourself stand out from the crowd. It means being different. People might try to put you down. But did Rosa Parks give up when she got arrested? Did Ida B. Wells give up when an angry mob burned her printing press to the ground? When people screamed at Ruby Bridges, did she turn around and go home? No, they stood up. Remember this. When you stand up for what you believe, you don't stand alone. You're standing on the shoulders of the mighty ones who came before you. So don't back down. History has your back. Yes. Now it's your turn. Don't be shy. Stand up for yourself. Stand up for others. Stand up for what you believe. Stand up to be counted. Stand up to be the change you want to see. And if you do that, then believe me when I tell you this. You will be mighty. You're going to change the world. Wow. I hope that inspired you to to see what's around you and to do what you love and appreciate and know to speak up because you are powerful and you are beautifully made. Until next time with me, Sheila, keep shining your bright light. Bye for now.